Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Have you ever wondered why no one used the time turner to save Dumbledore?
What if there was a way to prevent his death, but no one even tried?
In today's video, you'll find out the real reason why the time turner couldn't bring Dumbledore back. When I first watched Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, one question kept nagging at me: was there really no way to save Dumbledore? My friends and I left the theatre discussing every possible solution, and soon we had an idea. Why didn't Harry use the time turner? He had used it before, he knew how it worked, and Dumbledore meant so much to him. Wouldn't he at least try?
But he didn't. Why?
The time turner is a small hourglass on a chain that allows the user to travel back in time. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, Hermione used it to attend multiple classes at once. Professor McGonagall gave it to her as a special privilege. Later, she revealed its secret to Harry and Ron, and together they used it to save Buckbeak and Sirius Black. So why wasn't it even considered in The Half-Blood Prince when Snape killed Dumbledore? Harry was devastated. Dumbledore was more than just a headmaster to him.
I couldn't stop thinking about this.
After digging into the books and discussing with fellow fans, I found several possible answers. First, Dumbledore was already dying. He had destroyed one of Voldemort's Horcruxes and was cursed beyond healing. Maybe Harry understood that saving him would only delay the inevitable. Second, time travel in the wizarding world is dangerous. One of its biggest rules is that you can't interfere with your own past. Meeting yourself or changing major events could have catastrophic consequences. Perhaps Harry simply didn't know how to alter the timeline without making things worse. But even with these reasons, something still didn't add up. Then I found the real answer. In the Order of the Phoenix, during the battle at the Ministry of Magic, all the time turners in the Department of Mysteries were destroyed. That scene never made it into the movies, leaving many viewers unaware that time travel was no longer an option. So in the end, it wasn't a plot hole, it was just a missing detail from the films. If Dumbledore had lived, everything could have changed. Imagine a world where he was there to guide Harry through the final battle, where his wisdom didn't disappear that night on the astronomy tower. Would Voldemort have been defeated faster? Would fewer lives have been lost? But let's take a step back. Even if a time turner had survived, could it really have saved him? The time turner wasn't designed to change the past in major ways. When Harry and Hermione used it, their actions had already happened. They didn't rewrite history, they fulfilled what was already meant to be. Buckbeak was always saved, Sirius was always rescued. The time turner didn't undo events, it simply ensured they played out as they were supposed to. That brings up an unsettling thought. What if Dumbledore's death was always meant to happen? What if no matter what, there was no way around it? Dumbledore himself might have believed this. He was always one step ahead, always planning for the greater good. What if he knew that for Voldemort to be defeated, he had to die? He spent an entire year preparing Harry, feeding him just enough information, making sure he was ready. He let Snape in on his plan, knowing full well what had to happen on that tower. Even if Harry had access to a time turner, would he dare to use it against Dumbledore's own wishes? That's another thing to consider. Dumbledore was not someone who feared death. In fact, he famously quoted the old wizarding saying, "To the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure." He had accepted his fate long before that night. Even if Harry had tried to change it, would Dumbledore have allowed him? It's heartbreaking to think about, but Dumbledore's death set things in motion. It made Snape Voldemort's most trusted confidant. It put Harry on the path to discovering the Deathly Hallows. It made the final battle possible. Without it, would the story have unraveled completely? There's also another problem with the idea of using the time turner. Let's say somehow Harry found one and travelled back to the moment before Dumbledore died. What then? Would he interfere, try to warn Dumbledore, attack Snape, stop Draco? It wouldn't be that simple. Dumbledore was weakened. His hand was cursed. He was barely holding on. Even if Harry stopped Snape, what then? Dumbledore wouldn't suddenly be healed. He'd still be dying. He'd still be out of time. And what about the larger consequences? What if stopping Snape meant Voldemort never fully trusted him? What if Snape lost his place at Voldemort's side? Would he still be able to protect Harry? Would he still be able to give him the final piece of the puzzle, the memory that revealed Harry was the last Horcrux? Altering the past might have done more harm than good. It's easy to imagine a better world, one where Dumbledore survived. But would that world have truly been better? Even with all these reasons, part of me still wishes Harry had tried. After all, he had just lost the only true mentor he had left. Dumbledore had been his guide, the one person who seemed to know the answers to everything. Losing him was like losing a part of Hogwarts itself. But maybe that was the point. Maybe Dumbledore needed to leave so Harry could step into his own. He could no longer rely on the headmaster to show him the way. He had to figure it out himself. He had to become the leader. This is something that happens in many heroes' journeys. The mentor must fall so the hero can rise. We see it in stories time and time again. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Gandalf. They all step aside, letting the younger generation take over. Maybe Dumbledore's story was always meant to follow the same path. If Harry had changed the past, would he have changed himself in the process? Would he have stayed the boy looking up to Dumbledore instead of becoming the man who faced Voldemort alone?
Of course, there's another detail to think about. Even if Harry had saved Dumbledore, what would happen to the rest of the story? Would he have still gone on the Horcrux hunt? Would Ron and Hermione have followed him? Would they have ever learned about the Deathly Hallows?
And then there's Snape. His entire role in the war hinged on Dumbledore's plan. He had to be the one to kill him. He had to gain Voldemort's trust. He had to be positioned close enough to pass on the crucial information when the time came. If Dumbledore had lived, what would Snape have done? He wouldn't have been in the position to help Harry in the final moments. He wouldn't have been able to leave him those memories. Harry never would have learned the truth about himself. Perhaps in the end, everything played out exactly as it needed to. Still, I can't help but wonder. Imagine a world where Dumbledore was standing in the Great Hall during the final battle. Imagine him leading the defense of Hogwarts. Imagine him facing Voldemort one last time, exchanging words, outsmarting him in ways only he could. Would it have changed the outcome, or was Harry always the one who had to finish it? It's a question we'll never truly have an answer to. The time turner wasn't an option, and maybe that was for the best. But just for a moment, let's pretend it was. Let's imagine Harry stepping into Dumbledore's office, finding a forgotten time turner tucked away in a drawer. Let's imagine him holding it, heart pounding, knowing what he could do. Would he turn it? Would he take the risk? Or would he set it down, understanding that some things aren't meant to change?